Welcome to the Self-Reliant Living Show, where we talk all about a self-reliant lifestyle to save money, live greener, eat healthier, and be prepared for anything so you can take care of the ones you love in good times and bad. I'm your host, Jennifer Osich, a homeschooling mom of 3 boys. I'm the author of the Preparedness Planner series, and my husband and I are the lead teachers of Self-Reliant School, a website dedicated to giving you the skills and confidence to take care of yourself and your community. Be sure to stop by and pick up your free videos from inside Self-Reliant School that will get you started growing, cooking, and preserving your own food today. You can pick these up at selfreliantschool.com/free. Now, on with the show. Okay, so now we get to it. We have a great guest today. I have an interview with Lisa Bedford. Okay, so unless you've been living under a rock somewhere, you probably know about Lisa. And she really doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to try my best, right? She is she's a wife and a mother. She has a great following and audience of people who love her, including me. At her core, like I said, she is a mom and a wife. In 2009, in the middle of the recession, she basically created a movement, and she has become a guide and an advocate for moms concerned about what's happening in the country and in the world. And she created the survivalmom.com. So that is her website, and if you haven't been there, you must go. Wait till after the show's over, but you must go to that website. It has got so much information for everyone, and if you're a mom, you will want to read through that because she's got great tips and just things you should know. She has been teaching us how to be prepared for anything so we can worry less and enjoy life more. She's an author, a speaker. She's been on TV, and you might even remember her from the trailer that she did for World War Z. So she is she's kind of famous there. Anyway, you can find her again at the survivalmom.com. So, welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Jennifer. You are so bubbly and energetic. I think our mornings must be just kind of going the opposite direction today. Or maybe I haven't had coffee.
Yes, coffee. That's a trick. Iced coffee is really good this time of year. Okay, so let me just start by asking you a few questions. So for those people who have been living under that rock and don't know you, can you explain a little bit about your website and your mission?
Mm-hmm. You know, moms worry about everything, and we start worrying even before we have kids. That's why we do the prenatal vitamin route. And, we stay away from anyone who's going to smoke a cigarette or looks like they might, strike up a cigarette or something. And those worries really don't go away. And so we want to make sure our kids are well fed, and when they go outside, they're dressed just right, and we teach them safety rules. Back in, 2008, 9, and 10 or so, that window of time, things got even more worrisome. It wasn't so much, do I bundle my kids up on a cold winter day? It was, what's happening with the economy? The neighbors down the street just lost their house. And I was just, as you were with the direction, I was realizing, Jennifer, that things have not gotten better. And maybe in some pockets of the country they have, but now we have, on top of economic issues and, some of these big concerns, we have terrorist attacks in just places where we've never seen them before. And I think that's unsettling, and things are just kind of seem to be piling up. So yeah, as just a completely ordinary mom, part of my mission is just to put tools and information in the hands of other moms to help them worry less. Once you put these pieces in place, then you can sit back a little, and at least that's something you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, that is concerning when you say that, well, things really haven't gotten better. And so how did you how did you come to know that the answer was preparedness? I mean, how did you figure that, well, if I do this, then it'll be
Right.
better down the line?
No, that's actually kind of a hard question to answer because I didn't grow up on a homestead. My parents, we weren't LDS Mormon, and so the concept of storing food and that kind of a lifestyle, it never occurred to me ever. And a story I tell in my book is of going hiking with my mom, a very easy, wheelchair accessible trail. It's not like we were hiking up, the Andes Mountains or something. And so she wanted to sit down and relax, and she pulled out a pouch, and I thought, oh, well, maybe she has, some water in there, whatever. She pulls out a whole array of lip glosses, every color, some matte, some sparkly, and that's kind of my heritage, really. So yes, I am probably the least, maybe the least prepared person to get into this niche. I had a Mormon friend in Phoenix who cracked up when she found out I was teaching food storage classes. That's not my background. But you know what? That isn't the background for probably 90%. We grew up really in a pretty stable world. And all of a sudden, now we're feeling things are getting rocky. And maybe, it's like, what happens next? When might a terrorist attack happen a whole lot closer to home? When might, my hours be cut? Or when might, we realize 1 month we're not going to make it financially? And when I saw that kind of happen to my husband's business, I mean, his business phone just stopped ringing, for days. I didn't want to say anything to him. I didn't want to get him worried, but of course he had noticed too. I realized that there had to be a way to be proactive. And I guess maybe that is like maybe one of my core values is just being proactive. So I just started digging around and came up with the idea of, or started not, I didn't come up with the idea, but I found websites. Survival blog was one of them, and got scared. Of course, when you start hearing about all these different possible collapses and things it never crossed your mind. Mm-hmm. But it really did lead me down a road that was calmer. It was more sane. I wasn't so much looking for, rural property that, had thick walls and were safe from rifle fire. It was like a lot of the stuff on Survival Blog would talk about. And I guess I had been an educator and a trainer for so long that it became a very natural progression to start talking about what I was doing and start writing about it. And that's when the blog happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to me, I mean, because I am one of your biggest fans, and I think that what you do so well is you actually translate some of the stuff, from Survival Blog, the sort of extreme stuff, and you kind of go through those things and then kind of translate it for us normal people. And so that's something I think you do really well. So could you tell us, elaborate a little bit more about that in terms of how you're different from somebody who's a doomsday prepper?
I was on Doomsday Preppers.
I remember.
And they edited my words to make me sound like I was more extreme than I was. And boy, was that a turnoff and a disappointment, But prepping is it's a part of our lives. So I homeschool our kids. I've homeschooled them from kindergarten. My daughter's now a senior in high school. And I am like every other mom out there. I get behind in my everyday grocery shopping, and we're opening the refrigerator. And my mom, my daughter, Mom, what are we going to have? I told you she'll make grocery lists for me, and then I don't go to the grocery store. But I'm just like every other mom. But I think there is just like I think when you kind of wake up, Jennifer, and I'm just going to say when you wake up, when you become aware, it's like a part of your brain all of a sudden just activates. And now when I go to the grocery store, maybe I'll think, you know what, I really should buy maybe a couple more, pounds of salt, running low. Or I just kind of keep a running tab in my mind of what I want to do. My husband sometimes works in downtown Houston, not the safest place to be, the third largest city in the country, right? So we've talked about how he might get home if something happens. If there's a riot near his building, what would he do? But that's not where I live. I live where everybody else lives. I'm looking at my floors today thinking, dang, these haven't been swept in, 2 or 3 weeks now, maybe longer. We get lazy over the summer. So I think it's just that part of the brain that gets activated. And then you just start putting those kinds of things in place, getting educated, you're researching and reading, becoming more self-reliant, like what you're trying to teach people to do. That's all a part of it.
Yeah. So in other words, your mom instincts just kind of kick in there.
Yeah.
So it's talking about moms. Okay, so for those moms that are watching, so what kinds of things should moms be prepared for? I mean, what kind of things should you start with?
Right. You don't want to jump right into preparing for a nuclear war. You don't want to jump in and start preparing for a total collapse of society or the economy. And the reason for that is those things could happen. They could happen. But what could happen maybe in the next few days, the next few weeks? Well, you know what? Your car could break down. And you're out there on a hot summer day. You have the kids in the car with you. You don't have water. You don't have snacks. You don't have your cell phone's almost dead. Those are the kinds of everyday emergencies that you prepare for first. And the good news is that as you begin putting those basic steps, that like a foundation, you put those basic foundational steps in place, then you are a little more ready for that worst case scenario. So now if you're stuck on the side of the road and you're surrounded by floodwaters, well, that is a little worse than your car breaking down. But now you have the water, and now you have some things to keep the kids busy. You have maybe some snacks, and you have thought beforehand. You have maybe an external battery charger in your purse or something. And in no way, Jennifer, it's really important to realize, in no way does this remove the joy of living. That's big. So some people, they have this misunderstanding, maybe by watching Doomsday Preppers and maybe watching or reading some of the more extreme blogs. They have an idea that, this just overwhelms your life, and every day you wake up afraid. And every night you wonder if you're going to wake up alive. That's the case for a lot of people around the world. It is not right now the reality here. So yes, make the plans for your kid's birthday party, and maybe this weekend make plans for something fun. But when you lay this foundation, it kind of frees up your mind where you have some peace there. And it's like, okay, if the car breaks down, I'm ready. If we get laid off of work, if we lose hours, we're ready financially. We're ready in different kinds of ways. I talk a lot about food storage on my blog. I have a couple chapters about food storage in my book, because that is literally grocery shopping for the future. So someone loses a job, and typically they might spend, I don't know, $400, $500, $600, $700 a month on groceries. If you have a month's supply of food, if you have 3-4 months supply of food, well, that is that amount of time that you are not spending that grocery money. You have literally grocery shopped for the future. And those are the kinds of things that bring peace, but they're also just so common sense, and they really don't destroy the joyous moments of life.
I love that. I love that, you're doing this so that you can free up your mind, like you were saying, and then you're not overwhelmed with all of that anxiety, and so that brings the joy back into living. I love that. That's just.
Let me give another example, if I could.
Yeah.
There was a time in my life where we didn't have health insurance as a family, and there was another different span of time we didn't have car insurance. Okay, I will tell you, during those 2 periods of time, I was not at peace. If I got sick, if there was an ache or pain, I was too afraid to go to the doctor's office. I didn't know what the expense would be. We just tried to not get sick, and fortunately we were healthy. But there was always that underlying worry. When I didn't have the car insurance, that underlying worry, I better be extra careful today. When I'm out there driving, what if someone hits me? When we got that insurance, we could relax a little bit. I didn't become a reckless driver, and we're not running to the doctor, for every little tiny thing, but we have that as a safety net, and that's what preparedness is. It's just a safety net.
Yeah, that is so true. And like I said, that you do this wonderful thing about, letting us know some of the important things without being scary and without bringing all of the fear of, oh, the world's going to end into it. And I love that. And I've always loved that about you. Tell me a little bit about the what you write about on your blog, and because you even bring in homeschooling into all of this. So how do you sort of thread those things together with survival and maintaining a balance and then homeschooling? I mean, we've been talking about that, because you tell me a little bit more about just kind of the day-to-day things that you do and the things that you write about.
Well, on my blog, what I have tried to do, and this came over time, there are some areas of being prepared that aren't popular. And they're not popular because they're not glamorous. You know, most people, most preppers would love to nothing more than to spend an hour, 2 hours, years debating what should go in their bug out bag. Honest to God, you go to some of these survival forums and there are bug out bag threads that have been going on for years. However, what about the people who need to lose 40 pounds? What about the people who are just living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, just barely, and they're spending money maybe foolishly? And it's the areas of health and fitness and finances that are not glamorous. And yet, how far are you going to get if you ever need to run for your life? And what about finances? You know, you talk about a Berkey, you talk about all these things you want for your bug out bag, you talk about getting a property that's out of the city, you talk about maybe being able to leave a job that's located in a city someday. Well, you have to pay attention to finances. And again, none of those are, I don't know. I mean, they're not fun to talk about. You know, I don't want to talk about, you know, losing weight or, you know, it's not that it's fun, but those still have such an impact on our actual real survival. A couple of weeks ago, we had Selko at shtfschool.com as our guest, and he was a Bosnian war survivor. And it was the people during that time span who were mentally fit, but they were also physically healthy. When there are no doctors, when there is no dentist, you know, wherever you are right at this moment in your health in particular, in your financial situation, that is where you start surviving.
Yes.
And if you think about that, maybe that hits home to someone listening to this, because right now, if there was a calamity, you don't have time to, you know, start working out. You don't have time to start doing push-ups, going for walks. You don't have time to start, you know, going down to see where your money's going every single week and month. This is it. You know, it becomes reality. And so what makes the site different and what we cover on the blog are those categories. And you'll notice we have a lot of family type articles. You know, things to get the kids involved, things that are beneficial to a family as a whole. I had one of my writers, Beth Buck, write a series on preparing kids. And so the supplies kids need, the practice they need, the knowledge they need at their age level. And, you know, I would like to write more about homeschooling. I have several articles on the blog. Homeschooling is a passion of mine. Last fall, I helped a high school homeschool co-op get started in my town. Wow. And it's going strong. This will be its second year. So really is something I'm committed to. And I think preppers should consider homeschooling. I think that for so many reasons it's a good choice, but we're committed to homeschooling, and on my blog there are numerous articles on the subject.
Yes, I agree, and I love that. Yes, definitely. Let me ask you this. Now, there's always like, you know, here and there on the internet, on Facebook, whatever, there's always somebody, and sometimes they're, you know, some guru or somebody of some stature, and they're always giving you a warning. I mean, it's just
I know
like,
where this is going.
Yeah, 3 or 4 months out, you know, hey, it's coming. And, you know, it seems like there's a warning every 2 or 3 months. So, you know, how do you separate those, you know, warnings, and how do you separate that from real life, and how do you organize that in terms of your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. You know, one time I Googled economic collapse 2013, got a bunch of articles. Economic collapse 2014, got a bunch of articles. You know, you can pretty much go in a year for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And in fact, I remember back in the 70s, there were books about the coming collapse of the dollar. First of all, the economy is just a massive, massive machine beyond anything that we could ever really picture in our minds. And it's not just dollars and cents. It's just not goods. There's also the human factor. And so we have Americans out there. My husband and I were talking just this last week about how the American mindset is, I lost my job. Okay, how do I solve this? We're very much problem solvers. I'm going to go take some classes. I'm going to finish a degree. I'm going to take on 2 jobs. And maybe that is part of the reason why we haven't seen more of a disintegration of the economy. Yes, the warnings come out on a regular basis. I get them. I get messages from people. And first of all, here's what I do when I get afraid. I go ahead and I just feel the fear. I got some information this last spring and from a couple of sources, and they were credible sources to me, as far as I knew, and they were very unsettling. And I was, I just was scared the crap out of me. And I'm thinking, okay, is my family ready for this? I just let the fear sink in, because I'm not going to deny the fear. I'm not going to say, oh, that could never happen, because we're looking around the world right now and we're seeing things that could never happen, and they're happening. And there is no moat around the United States. There's no moat around your city or state or your neighborhood. There's not a moat there. There's no, super high electronic fence that's going to protect us. So those things could happen. But what I've found over the years, Jennifer, is that the fear, it kind of dissipates, and then what is left is, how am I going to deal with it? I have a clearer mind now. Okay, this threat is there. This event could happen. What are we going to do now? Are we just going to sit back and wait? We're going to watch TV, every single night, and we're going to, eat out at restaurants, which we do sometimes. As I said before, I don't always remember to grocery shop. But I feel that fear actually is a useful thing if you use it correctly. If you take in something and you acknowledge this could happen. And then how do we prepare? It could be a cancer diagnosis and realizing this cancer runs in my family. And my gosh, I'd have, my kids, how would they cope without a mother, and so on. You feel the fear for hours, maybe a few days, whatever. And then you say, okay, I'm going to go get a checkup. I haven't had a mammogram in a few years. This is what I'm going to do. So it actually can be a very useful tool. And I would just suggest that future calamitous predictions that we do see, I would never say that such, a certain event could never, ever happen. But just gotta let that sink in. And then what are you going to do to be proactive? That's a big question
to ask yourself. That's great. Yeah, I totally agree. That's wonderful. Well, but you've taken this a little bit further, because you have created something that is even more helpful than your website. So could you tell us why and how you decided to create the Preppers University?
Yeah. The seed of that was planted this spring when I did get some scary information, predictions about the future. And I thought, I've written a book, and so have a bunch of other really smart survival and prepper types. We've written our books. We have our websites. We're putting stuff out on social media. But there has to be something more. And then I realized that a year ago when I started that co-op that I mentioned, that homeschool co-op, I realized that I had just been kind of floating along as far as prepping went. I really wasn't actively prepping. I was so consumed with this other project that was taking up such a big chunk of my attention, just my mental energy, that I just wasn't a prepper anymore. And I thought, well, Lisa, if this can happen to you, and about the food storage, and you have the food storage, you have these different components, then I would bet anything that it has happened to other people where they know they should prep and they know why. And maybe they got started, and maybe they're actually pretty far along the journey, but then just, life happens. So Preppers University is my answer to that. I knew I couldn't do it alone, and so I asked Daisy Luther. Daisy is a very prolific blogger. She has a brand new website where she opines about more political things, daisyluther.com. And I just texted her on Facebook. It was such a coincidence. Daisy, do you want to join with me in putting this together? So what Preppers University is now is that it really is something that holds people's feet to the fire. If you're serious about prepping, And if sometimes deep down inside, we think, okay, I just need accountability. I say I'm on a diet, and then there's Whataburger.
Yeah.
I say I'm going to work out, but not tonight.
Right.
Accountability really is what made things like Weight Watchers and makes, personal trainers and different kinds of counselors and so on so important for a lot of us, is they hold us accountable. And so that's what we have with Preppers University. We have weekly assignments. We have assessments. Every Sunday night, we get together in a webinar room, and we just go down the to-do list for the week. All right, how many of you, made some strides with your water storage? How many of you downloaded this free book about being, wilderness first aid or whatever? And we really do hold people accountable. They have membership and they have access for a year. So we saw some students, falling further and further behind, but they have the access for a year, so they can go back to the same to-do list, the same assignments, the same checklists, and all of our webinars are recorded. So we brought in, Daisy and I taught several webinars ourselves on things. She wrote a book about water storage. I have my Survival Mom family survival manual. So we both taught classes, but then we wanted to bring in outside experts. So we had Michael Snyder come in as a speaker, and Furfowl, Fernando Aguirre was a speaker, and Selco. Kat Ellis, she's an excellent herbalist. So we brought these speakers in to really even give our students even more depth and more information. So the feedback we have gotten really was overwhelming, because neither Daisy nor I didn't know if 10 students would sign up. We had no concept. We ended up with close to 130. Wow. And the feedback we have gotten has been just overwhelming. I mean, at one point Daisy wrote on a Facebook page that, I think I'm going to start crying, because I think so many people were kind of hungry for this.
Yes.
And that's what preppersuniversity.com is, and that's how it started. And registration for our next session opens now. It just opened today.
Well, that's what I was
good timing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, if you could, because there's a lot of people in the comments and they are saying that this sounds so great. And so could you tell us that link again, and then we will have that in the show notes.
Right.
And we will also go back and put that in the comments too. So, but could you tell us that for those that are listening?
It's preppersuniversity.com. And when you go there, you'll see information, and really I haven't even touched on everything we have to offer. We just opened a brand new membership-only student center, and the student center has tons of resources. So when you sign on for a 10-week, we call it an intensive, and maybe people aren't familiar with intensives. In homeschool circles, and we are familiar with intensives, at least some of us are. An intensive is, maybe like 2 or 3 solid days where you do, all the chemistry experiments from your high school chemistry class or something. It's just like bam, 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 and it's painful. But when it's over, you've made progress. You're done. And so the intensive, it's 10 weeks long. The price is $169. Access for a year. It also includes a year's membership to our student center. And the student center has a library. It has a forum. Oh my goodness, so much. We're adding some mini courses that people can take 24/7 at their own time. They'll have access to the webinar recordings. So there is a lot there for our students. It really is amazing. But membership did open today. The first day of class is, and we did not plan this, but it's September 11th.
Oh, wow.
We had to time it for that Sunday. We have an orientation that evening. And if you can't make it, all of our webinars are recorded. But we had to get that 10 weeks in before Thanksgiving. And so we'll take a break over the holidays and we'll resume in January. But September 11th is our first day.
Wow, that's just kind of surreal there.
I know.
That's great. And people, like I said, in the comments, people are saying that sounds fabulous. Well, can you tell us a little bit about, maybe there are people out there that, all of this sounds great, and, they want to get in shape and they want to do this and that and whatever, and they want to, they want to be prepared, but they're not in the best health for whatever reason. Maybe it's, something like they need to lose weight, or maybe it's a chronic condition or whatever. What advice do you have for those people?
Mm-hmm. I think some of the best advice came from Theodore Roosevelt. May not get the quote verbatim, but it's, you start where you are with what you have. And that is really where anybody starts. If all you can do is just add a couple cans of soup when you go to the grocery store. If you're using an EBT card, use the EBT card to get very basic ingredients of different varieties of beans and rice, grains, canned vegetables, seasonings, salt and pepper and spices and herbs. Those are, what's ironic is that is those kinds of foods that actually have the lower prices. When you start adding into your cart the processed foods, that's when those can add up. But start with just very basic items. And then if you're, okay, I've never made beans before in my life, Lisa, then you just start learning how to put those ingredients together. Also, those have a benefit of being healthier. You're not going to get the high fructose corn syrup, the high level of sodium, all of the different ingredients that our processed foods have. Because part of becoming healthy is starting on the inside and just kind of healing your body from the inside out. Also, my son, here in Texas, as you know, Jennifer, sports are insane. They're insane. And when my son joined a competitive baseball team last year, we didn't know this, and people outside of Texas will not know this either. But little kids, first, second grade, very often their parents hire baseball professionals, former baseball big leaguers, minor leaguers to coach their kids. Well, this was news to us. So we did hire Sergio. We hired Sergio because my son had really never played baseball before, and all of a sudden he was on this team with kids who'd been playing since they were 6. And he was 14. And when Sergio found out that we were considering joining a gym, he just was horrified. And I think Sergio's Cuban, and we just loved him. And he was like, you can walk outside your door and walk. You can walk outside your door and run. You know, and he didn't say this, but you and I know you can take a gallon of milk, you know, maybe just fill it halfway full with water or something. And now you have a 4-pound weight. You don't have to go to a gym for that. You don't have to go to a sports store to buy, you know, something special. YouTube, the internet, they are full of exercise routines where you just use everyday things around the house. So as far as getting healthy, that's what I would say. Also, an annual physical is something that is free on insurance plans. And I check if you're under the, you know, with an Obamacare associated insurance company, see if at least you can get the physical for free. Because with that physical, if they'll want blood work, they may want some different tests, and all of those, I believe, are incorporated into the cost of that physical. Yeah. So when I got a physical this last March, they wanted blood work, and then, golly, they wanted, you know, your annual female exam and the mammogram. And so I actually got, you know, a head to toe checkup, very thorough, and the insurance paid for it. So if that's a possibility, and also I will tell you from the time that we didn't have insurance, just to call around and ask. In Phoenix, I found a clinic, and it was mostly Mexican people that went there. I went in and I paid $35, boom, and I was seen by the doctor, no other charges, paid cash, and I was out the door. So here in Houston, I went down to downtown Houston for this. There was a very low-cost ultrasound place, $80 cash. I was out the door with an ultrasound that my doctor had prescribed. So there are low-cost options out there for those healthcare, and it will take cash, you know, see what your insurance will cover. Honestly, that's where I would start with getting healthy.
Okay. Yeah, that's great advice. Now, we have some people in the comments. We have Pat saying that she took the summer session of Preppers University. Yeah, and she said she learned so much and that it was worthwhile. And then we have Christina, and she's asking questions about membership options. She's asking, there's a 1-year and a 10-week, so could you explain a little bit about those two options?
I think on the registration right now, there is the 10-week prepping intensive that includes a 1-year membership to Student Center.
Okay.
That's $169. Maybe also when I saw that earlier this morning, there was a 1-year membership to the Student Center only, and that's $10 a month. That's $120. But you know what? Honestly, I would pay the extra $49. And I would get that 10-week class. You get the 10-week class and access to Student Center. But we put the Student Center option there just for someone who might just want to, you know, check in from time to time to see what resources are there, you know, chat on the forum, you know, now and then. And they don't really want the 10-week class. But yes, those are the two options.
Okay.
Spend the $49. Spend
Okay.
the extra $49 and get the 10-week class.
It'd be money well spent. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
September, we're almost in September, and that is National Preparedness Month. So, Survival Mom, do you have a challenge for our listeners in September for preparedness?
I guess the challenge would be to ask yourself 4 questions, and these 4 questions will help you prioritize. I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed, we just feel almost dizzy when we think about everything about preparedness. We want our kids to be prepared. If we work, how will I get home? If we travel, how will I get home from hundreds of miles away? And pretty soon, we just get all, our brains are just all muddled, and where do we start first? So ask yourself first, what are the most likely and imminent extreme weather events that could happen where you are? Okay. Likely and imminent. And then ask yourself, what are the most likely and imminent natural disasters where you are? And you might say, well, the most likely is an earthquake, might be imminent or not. Well, then just earthquake. The third question, what is the most likely man-made disaster? And that could be anything from a nuclear event to a terrorist event to riots to a dramatically increased crime level where you are. Man-made events, a pandemic. Well, if you're a conspiracy theorist, pandemic, anything man-made. And then the fourth question is, what is the most likely personal disaster? Mm-hmm. Most likely and maybe imminent. And if you're looking at maybe the hours being cut at work, you're looking at maybe losing your home or being evicted from an apartment. That's what you want to concentrate on first. And I think your answers to those 4 questions will really give you a lot of information just right then and there. Yeah. You can take that a step further and then prioritize those answers and say, okay, I have earthquake, I have terrorist attack, I have a blizzard, and I have losing my job. Well, of those 4, really, what's your top priority? And that'll be different for everybody. But if you can start the month of September by answering those questions, looking at your priorities, that will help you know better what to do for the rest of the month, and then moving forward from there.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. So let me ask you, I can't not have you on the show and not ask you about World War Z. So can you?
Right.
Yeah.
Favorite movie.
Yeah. Can you tell us about the fun side and the serious side of that?
It was all fun. I was contacted by people who were doing the promotional material for the movie. I didn't get to meet Brad Pitt. That would have been fun. It would have been fun. I hope he and his family, I hope they're preppers. I doubt it, but maybe. Actually, there were a lot of celebrity preppers. So I was contacted, and we tossed around ideas of what I could talk about. And I know they were bringing on a doctor. I think they had these promos by maybe 2 or 3 other people. And so we kind of settled on talking about growing food. And then at one point, they kind of threw in, well, what about canning? And so the garden in that promotional video, the garden you see behind me, that was not my garden. I found an amazing urban gardener in Phoenix. Phoenix can be the most amazing place in the world to garden because you have an almost year-round growing season. And it can also just be a disaster. That was maybe one of our better gardens in Phoenix. But this woman, not only did she have amazing gardens, but she actually had a business where she had so much produce, she would go and sell the produce. And she also had chickens and goats, and she had a nice little business there. So when you see that, that's where I am. The kitchen I'm in, when I'm cutting up those tomatoes, they kind of threw that at me. And I thought, well, dang, they have jars and I have tomatoes. What can I do? And one woman said, I've never seen anyone can quite like that before. And I said, yeah, because I'm not really canning. I'm just kind of going through some kind of emotion here, so they can put like a voiceover, on top of my actions. And even the tomatoes and the cans in the kitchen, none of that was mine. And I really liked film. What they use to produce that versus TV video. I thought it was more flattering to me. I think I actually look better. My skin tone looks better, which is very vain. But there really was, it was just a lot of fun, and it was done a lot more quickly than I had expected. It was just maybe an afternoon and boom, we were done.
Oh, wow. Well, that does sound like fun. And I've never seen you look bad, so I don't know where you're getting that. But let me ask you this, because there's a lot of people out there online, if you're part of groups, if you're part of preparedness groups, and the thing that comes up over and over again is, well, I'm preparing, but I'm just not ready. I'm never going to be ready. And just, and
Right.
it's like a panic anxiety thing. And what do you tell people that say that, and what do you tell people that are reading that?
One time years ago, we were preppers by this time, and we were at Disneyland. And I remember waiting in line for a ride, or an attraction, as they call them. And I remember just watching people just come and go. And I thought, you know what? These people, probably almost 100%, are completely unaware. And so no matter how much progress you've made, you are better prepared than almost everyone else around you, maybe everyone else. And if something does hit, you have rehearsed in your mind what you would do, where you would go, who you would contact, what supplies you would need. I think a lot of it is the mental preparedness, kind of thinking through scenarios. And that is a form of preparedness. It's not just stacking toilet paper and beans and bullets to the ceiling. A lot of it is mental, where you are, you hear gunfire. And immediately, first of all, you recognize gunfire. If you have not been around a shooting range, if you've never shot a gun in your life, I've even heard experienced policemen say that on occasion they have been mistaken when something sounded like gunfire, but it wasn't, or the other way around. So you hear gunfire. Well, maybe over the months, you've been playing your mind, okay, I'm out shopping with the kids. I hear gunfire, what do we do? And at least you have rehearsed. So while everybody else is just scrambling and panicking, maybe you have walked in and you just immediately automatically looked for some exits. Maybe your kids know, if mom ever grabs your hands, if I ever tell you, give you an order, then you follow my order. When you have kids, this is another part of preparedness. When you have kids, part of that training is for them to obey you quickly and immediately. And that is, I am a laid back mom. Okay. My son, he'll laugh about how spoiled he is. I am not the strict militaristic parent. My husband may be more, I'm not. However, one time when my kids were younger, we did a rehearsal. And I said, okay, kids, what if I'm telling you we're outside in front of the house and I say, hey, Andrew, come here. Hey, Andrew, come to me, quick. I have something. And then I said, what would you do? Well, they probably look up kind of interested, kind of curious. And then I switched it around. I said, okay, Andrew, what if you hear me say it in this tone of voice? Andrew, come here. Andrew, and it's more of a demand than it is. And I have told my kids that as a parent, I'm something like an air traffic controller. I'm up here, not just because I'm taller, because now I'm the shortest one in the family, but I'm just more aware of stuff. And I can see things, and I notice things that as little kids, they just didn't. And so part of that, training was quickly and immediately you listen and you obey. And and when you start thinking about just scary experiences and am I ready or not, part of that being ready is just thinking in your mind and processing through your mind. What would I tell the kids? Do we have a code word? We joke in our house, our code word is the black cat crows at dawn. So we just joke, okay, if you ever get this text message, the black cat crows at dawn, we'll just all laugh because that's just like a funny code word. But, what have you put into place? And preparedness can be a whole lot easier than you might think, a whole lot less extreme than you might think. And it doesn't take a whole lot to get ready. So as I said earlier, if you worry, if you're spending too much time in fear, then you just have to look around and acknowledge what you've accomplished.
Yes.
And, maybe just make a short list. What can I do this week? 3 things I could do this week to get a little better prepared. And then really feel good about what you've done, because I guarantee you that the military, the U.S. military, no matter what plans they have gone through in their minds and they've rehearsed and they have, put gear and they've put supplies and people in place, there are unintended consequences. There are things that no one can predict. And you just do what you can do.
Yeah, I love that. Just let the anxiety and the fear, like you were saying earlier, just go through you. Even if you have to do that for just 2 minutes every day, just let that go through you so you can move on to getting other things done. So, well, let me ask you, survival mom, what is the best thing, a skill that you're good at? What are you a rock star at in terms of preparedness?
In terms of preparedness, I would say it would be utilizing the stored food.
Okay.
So I could take freeze-dried food, I can take whatever we have, and I can make a really good meal. I do not like to cook, but I can, and I can use different cooking methods. So whether it's solar or whether it's cooking over a campfire or whatever, I'm pretty darn good at that.
Yeah,
Rock
great.
star level, you'd have to ask my husband.
Okay, so I can't have an interview without you, or with you, and not mention, I should say, your book, because it's kind of the Bible of preparedness. It's called,
Thanks.
it's called How to Prepare Your Family, or Survival Mom, How to Prepare Your Family for Everyday Disasters and Worst Case Scenarios. And I have to say, I had to read that because it's really long. I just say Lisa Bedford's book most of the time, because it is the Bible of preparedness, at least for moms. And so my question is there going to be a sequel to this book?
Oh boy, well that's kind of the joke around here. And Daisy Luther and I, we joke because between the two of us, we probably have 5 or 6 unwritten books. And I did write a book that zeroed in on emergency evacuations, and I just self-published that. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, as well as a hard copy. But I focus on emergency evacuations in that second follow-up book. It's a short read. It's a smaller book, but because there's so many reasons, so many different scenarios that could force us from our homes or force us from a place at work, and thinking through that and having plans really sidelines the initial panic that all of us would fear, no matter how well prepared. You know, you wake up and you smell smoke and oh my God, the house is on fire. Well, this is what we've done. The kids have been trained. This is what we do. This is what we grab, and we're out of here. Or it could be, a chemical fire nearby, or something happening at a plant near where you live, or maybe where you're driving by and something happens. So I focused on that. That again is just on Amazon. And in the far recesses of my computer somewhere, I have a book started that kind of combines lessons from the Great Depression with living a frugal but enjoyable lifestyle. I have an agent, and that's something that I'm hoping that once this next Preppers Intensive gets rolling, I can kind of go back and focus on that again. I have an EMP book that probably is about half, 30, 40, 50% or more started. It's just time, Jennifer. It's time.
Yeah.
And I know because I homeschool and I stayed home, maybe the concept, the idea from an outsider might be, oh, she has lots of time. And like I said at the beginning, I'm just like every other mom out there, just trying to squeeze stuff in and enjoy my family and what I do. I do love the blogging, and I do love everything I do as far as Survival Mom goes.
Yeah. Well, now can you tell people how to find you? Because I know your website and social media. I just love having you on the show. It's been an absolute joy. But if people want to know more, can you please tell them where to find you?
Oh, sure. The main blog, which really is the heart of everything I do, is thesurvivalmom.com. And you can go there. There are, 1,600 articles there. So just have fun browsing. I've tried to organize it by categories, but just, have fun browsing. The books, as Jennifer mentioned, are available on Amazon. Just look up my name, Lisa Bedford. Preppers University, our next class series starts September 11th, and I recommend that highly. I know I have some other websites. I just started working with someone to kind of revamp a blog that's been around a long time, preparednessadvice.com. And the man that ran that, old-time prepper. And I've been working on it with Noah, and we've been having fun digging in, because he'll write about how to cook a raccoon.
Yeah.
Cooking a raccoon never crossed my mind. So the kinds of things that he's written about over the years, we have really loved digging in and refreshing them with graphics and so on. But that is another fun website with just kind of, it's all about survival and preparedness, but just on kind of a, click the channel and, Survival Moms on one channel, and this is what I do, and here's preparedness advice, and it's a little bit something different. But those are the main places where I'm found online.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me go ahead and give you a couple of reminders before I let you go. On August 22nd, so that was this past Monday. If you are listening live or on the replay, that was on the 22nd. The Essential Oil Revolution 2 started, and so if you are listening within the next couple of days, you can still sign up for that for free, and you can go ahead and get those talks that day. I think there's a time limit, like 24 hours or so on those, and those are free. And then if you do decide to purchase that, then go ahead and send me your receipt, and I will give you my Preparedness Planner Essential Oil Edition for free. And so the link to that, I had to look at my notes there, is selfreliantschool.com/EO Summit. So if you'd like to do that, then go ahead and sign up for that. And like I said, if you decide to purchase that, I will give you my Essential Oil Planner for free. Okay. Now, we did this last week. I'm going to do this again this week. And I think last week I just really went really quick and people didn't know what I was doing. But I want to give you guys, we're doing a giveaway for those of you that are watching today. And what this is, it's a super cool thing. And I didn't take it out of the box last week, so I think I didn't do it justice. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to hold it up here. This is a thermometer. It's a Bluetooth thermometer, and so what you do is you've got it's a cooking thermometer. So you take this, and let me see if I'm got it in the camera here. Okay, so you're going to put this in your food, and then you're going to take this other part and hook it up to this, and then it's Bluetooth, so you can go anywhere in your house and you can see the temperature on your phone. So it is super cool. You don't have to be standing in the kitchen if you want to put this in a crock pot or a stove or whatever. You don't have to be standing there waiting for it to come up to temperature, whatever that is that you're cooking with. So if you would like to be entered for that giveaway, go ahead and go to selfreliantschool.com/giveaway to enter. And that is going to be a super fast giveaway because, like I said, it's my thank you for you guys watching this show today. Okay, so again, if you have not gone over to Lisa's website, go to thesurvivalmom.com. There's so much more information there about everything that we've talked about today. It's a wealth of information, and I highly recommend it. So if you're just coming in the middle of this show, then let me just go over a couple of things. Again, my name is Jennifer, and I am from selfreliantschool.com, and I have been talking to Lisa Bedford, aka the Survival Mom, and that is who I've been talking to today, and we had a great interview. So if you did come in the middle, I highly recommend you going back to the beginning and listening because as always, she has a wealth of information, and she gave us some great advice on preparedness. So with that, I'm going to say, remember that being self-reliant is not about being selfish or just about yourself. It's about taking care of yourself so you can take care of those that you love. Take care until we talk again. I'm so glad you could join me today. Here's what to do next. Head over to selfreliantlife.tv to pick up the show notes for this episode and to watch replays of older episodes. To go directly to the show notes for this episode, go to selfreliantlife.tv, and then without a space, type a / and then the number of today's episode. You can watch this show live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, live on Facebook or the Periscope app. Don't forget to stop by selfreliantschool.com/free to get your free Self-Reliant School videos that will help you get started living a self-reliant life. Also, if you're listening to this show as a podcast and you've liked what you've heard today, please subscribe through Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast app. If you're on a mobile device, just search for The Self-Reliant Living Show. If you're on a laptop or desktop, just go to selfreliantlife.tv/iTunes. And while you're there, please leave a review. I love to hear from you. You leaving feedback makes it easier for others that are interested in living a self-reliant life to find my podcast. Take care until we talk again.